Bow our heads at this time as we pray. Father God, our Creator and our Lord, we are indeed grateful to you for the privilege that we can be here this evening. And we pray, dear God, that even as we assemble here, dear Father, that your Spirit would pervade among us, that your Spirit would direct us, that your Spirit would lead us, that your Spirit would inspire us all the way. And, oh dear Father, even as we meet here and we discuss together, we talk together, we deliberate together, when we leave here, dear Father, your name would be glorified and the PNM banner would be lifted high, we pray. Bless us all, we ask, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Let me take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to this community conversation. This is number 4. Yes, number 4 in our series of meetings. And I believe that the meetings have been going pretty well, and the conversations have been coming out. I want to take this opportunity to recognize in our midst the political leader of the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement, Mr. Ansel Dennis. I also want to recognize a lady who has proven herself to be very calm, collected, deliberate, brilliant, intelligent, our Senator Melanie Roberts Rajman, and Mr. Rajman. I want to pay special recognition to the prospective candidates who are seated in the audience this evening. Give them a round of applause, our standard bearers, and as we go through the communities, you are going to meet them one by one. All our officers of the Tobago Council, we want to recognize you, our former Member of Parliament, Mrs. Ayana Webster-Roy, and all members of the party groups of Mason Hall, the Mason Hall-Moriah district. You know, Mason Hall-Moriah is no stranger to the development of Tobago and development of Tobago under People's National Movement banner. You can just look throughout this village and you would recognize, if you are old enough, you'd recognize the transformation of this village over the years. I would always make mention of the fact that prior to the PNM coming into office, Mason Hall appeared at sometimes to be a bit disconnected, Sandy River disconnected from Alma Road and so on, until the PNM came into office and what was a track and pasture was developed into well-constructed roadway that is called Punch Bowl, and even the construction of the Mason Hall Secondary School. I want to also mention that one of the first projects that would primary school, the reconstruction of the Mason Hall Government Primary School, and that was done within the first term of the People's National Movement coming into office. And you go to Moriah and the same thing, the playing field, the health center, even the work done at King Peter Bay Road, this is work that has been done, undeniably done by the People's National Movement. But tonight is not about me, it's not a political rally, it's a conversation. And even though the weather outside or the temperature outside is a bit on the chilly side, I want you to feel the warmth on the inside. Don't be afraid to get up and ask your questions, because this is a conversation with the community of Mason Hall Moriah and Tobago by extension. And at this time, I want to ask both the political leader and the prospective candidate for Mason Hall Moriah to take their seat on the stage at this time, and put your hands together as we welcome them to the stage, Mr. Ansel Dennis and Mr. Kwesi Devines. Oh, we could do better than that. And so we are here to have a conversation about putting Tobago first again. We've seen over the last 4 years that Tobago has been placed on the back burner, whether it be our local contractors, our service providers, just development in general Tobago has been placed on the back burner. And so the People's National Movement is about putting Tobago first again. So at this time, I want to invite Mr. Kwesi Devines, the prospective candidate for the district of Mason Hall Moriah, no stranger to us, to introduce himself again. There may be somebody who doesn't know Kwesi, so we want to give them the opportunity to find out who Kwesi is. Mr. Kwesi Devines.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hislop, of course. Special good evening, and thank you again to the political leader for reposing confidence in me, Mr. Ansel Dennis. You all make some noise, give him a good welcome. He is a Mason Hall man after all. And of course, Senator Rajman Roberts, who is a Mason Hall girl. You all make some noise for her, please. To my fellow prospective candidates, of course, our former MP, hard-working MP, let's recognize her, Mrs. Ayanna Webster Roy. To some of the great people in Tobago, the great Mason Hall people, the great PNM people, you all make some noise for yourselves as well. But like Mason Hall people and Moriah people do like to make noise for themselves. You all make noise for yourselves, I say. And I deliberately started that way because I want to put this statement on record. That it is my genuine and earnest belief and conviction, and my fellow candidates might get angry for me to saying this, that when it comes to a rich cultural and natural heritage, Mason Hall and Moriah are unrivaled. The facts speak clearly for themselves. And if you don't believe me, ask the man from Ohi. When immigration asked him about all them Tobago girl, the first one he speak about was them girl from Mason Hall. They ain't easy at all. They're pretty like a doll. But all jokes aside, I'm extremely humble and thankful to be here with each and every one of you. Mason Hall is the village where I was born. Fun fact, when I was born, of course, to Marcy and Erwin Devines, you all know Teacher Devines, many of you. If he beat you at school, don't try to take it out on me now, please. But when I was born, we were living there in the Warner houses right at Sandy River Junction. And on one side lived Shamfoko Joe, and on the other side lived the chairman for this evening, Mr. Lawrence Isler. So there was something aligned in that area, in that corner, at that point in time. I don't know what it was, but here we are today. And I just want to emphasize that history and heritage are important for me because the People's National Movement has a proud legacy of development. And I'm happy to reintroduce myself to the people of Masonol and Mariah because I was born in Masonol, grew up in Mariah. And the reality is I was able to contribute to that development story in a real and tangible way throughout this community. And I will tell you, it saddens me now to see that we were on such a development trajectory in these communities, and then something as simple as the roadways. I don't know how many tires and ends and shocks we have to buy. When I look at the basketball courts, the football fields, the last time the lights on the football field in Mariah probably were repaired, I did it out of my pocket when I was served as the Secretary of Infrastructure. We built roads in places that people did not know roads could be built. We ensured that development occurred where some people doubted it could happen. Just ask the people of Fair Hill in Mariah if ever you believe a road could go there. Ask anyone going all across the electoral district the number of roads, retaining walls, drains that were done. And since then, since the P&M demitted office, what has been done? And I like to be honest and fair. And I will tell you very quickly, because I don't want to take up too much time, that, and I want to be very earnest and honest with you now, that prior to 2021, December to be particular, if you ask me what my greatest fear was, I would tell you that my greatest fear was failure. I was genuinely afraid of failing. Ask any of my friends or probably university lecturers and they would tell you, I never failed a course at university, and not because I was always studying, but because I refused to fail. And it is the same work ethic I took to being a secretary. I just saw a former colleague of mine. You'll make some noise for former Assemblyman Jumo Pitts. Of course, let me recognize the former assemblymen among us. Of course, Mr. Adams, I see, and Mr. Cadet as well. But I took that same work ethic of never failing into the division of infrastructure. And my staff, and I see one of the engineers who was unceremoniously chased, talented and intelligent guy, I won't call his name, that was chased out of the division, who worked there. Sometimes they would joke because I played Massa at Old Time Wedding. They would say, Massa, all this work you're trying to give us. But the reality is I told them, I'm not asking you to work any harder than I am willing to work. And that is the work ethic that I bring to the table. And that is the work ethic that I am bringing to the people of Mason Hall and Mariah yet again. But I was saying that I was afraid of failure. And then, of course, the reality is we lost the election. I lost in January of 2021. And at that point, I felt at the time, up to that point, that my hard work would speak for itself. That although we had to campaign, the people knew that I delivered. And the people knew that I would work tirelessly. But the fact is, people always forget what you did for them, but they will never forget the way you made them feel. And I had a conversation with a very successful businessman in Tobago not too long after. And I'll call his name Mr. Christian Tam. And I don't know how we got to that place where he was speaking about my fear of failure. And he said, Kwesi, you're mad? Failure is my best friend. He said, if it was not for failure, I would not be where I am today. And right after that conversation, Marshall Montano released a song about the high life. I don't know if you all know that song. And in that song, he speaks about L is no longer for a loss, it's a lesson. And I took the lesson of losing. I took the lesson of the P&M demitting office. I took the lesson of the people saying that the P&M had lost touch with the ground. And I can say now more than ever that we are ready to serve. I am ready to serve. And I understand now more than ever that it's not just about building the gigantic wall for the people in Beirut. They were asking all the time for a railing at Waterstone. And recently we put up that railing. That was more important to them than the Sierra Escape wall that we built and spent millions of dollars on. Even the fishermen, all of the work that we did in Moriah to build roads and so on, they felt that a tank to give them water was more important, and for the villagers there to get water for when people go down to the bay. And I understand now more than ever, as I walk around this electoral district yet again, which we have been doing since August, and we have encountered over 100 people who are still using latrines. We have encountered over probably close to 200 people with problems with their roof. They have more of a oof than a roof. And the fact is that people are in need of true representation. People are in need of true and genuine assistance. And the people of Mason Moriah are in need of someone who will truly lead with purpose, with pride, and with integrity. And I'm here to offer myself to the people.
I think we could do better than that, man. Yes. Mr. Devines, I want to thank you for your very genuine, sincere words of a willingness to serve the people, not only of Mason Moriah, but the people of Tobago. I want to take this opportunity to welcome a man who is not afraid of a microphone and has been leading the army, to put it in for lack of better words, leading the army into this fight. A young man, a man who has proven himself over the years with his willingness to work and serve the people of Tobago and the people of the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, put your hands together as we welcome to introduce himself and to say a few words in his opening remarks, Mr. Ansel Dennis, the political leader of the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hislop. There's a little thing that I do now so that I manage the time. Let me set the timer. Good evening, Mason Hall. Good evening, Moriah. It's a pleasure to be in this beautiful village of Mason Hall. Of course, your candidate just told us that it is the best electoral district in Tobago. I have other thoughts, but it's a pleasure to be here. I was born and raised in Buku, but most of you here who are from Mason Hall will know that because of my surname, that I have some Mason Hall roots. So Mason Hall is somewhat home for me. So it's good to be in this village, the home of the most recent Tobago-born Prime Minister of this country, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And the home of what we used to know as the Little Seven Orchestra. As a child growing up, and I see we need additional chairs, that's a good signal. Give yourselves a round of applause. So as a child growing up, I remember coming to this community to visit my grandfather, who lived up on Lekoto Road. In fact, the house is still in existence. And I remember coming up in that Mitsubishi pickup, one of those old-time Mitsubishi pickups. I think it was an L200. And we would journey up to Lekoto Road, and the time frame from the main road to get to my grandfather's house, it seemed to be more than half an hour at that time. Because, of course, the Likotur Road was a dirt road. It was a track. And I remember those memories as a child coming up almost every week, sitting in that pickup, going up to my grandpa's house, spending the day, and leaving late at night. That Likotur Road used to be pitch black. At times, my father had this thing he used to do where he would stop on the road and switch off the light, and you couldn't even see yourself. But that should tell us that Mason Hall and Tobago, by extension, has come a long way. And I am pleased to be here this evening with your candidate and your next assemblyman from Mason Hall, Mariah. And I had some very good days with Mr. Devines in the Tobago House of Assembly. And I can tell you, if there is anybody that you can count on to get the work done, if there is anybody that you can trust with the responsibility to represent you and to manage the affairs of any division in the Tobago House of Assembly, that will be Mr. Kwesi Devines. As we go throughout these community meetings, you will recognize that this PNM at this point in time is coming with a brand new team. And of the 15 candidates, there are only 2 individuals on that team with experience managing in the executive of the Tobago House of Assembly. And those individuals are myself and Mr. Devines. Because while we have gone throughout Tobago, talking to people, talking to our members, talking to Tobagonians generally, they have said to us they want change, they want to see a new team, they want to see new faces. And we have listened to that. But of course, you can't have a situation where the entire team is new and you don't keep some experience. And I am happy that as part of this team, we have the experienced Kwesi Devines. And I will tell you something about Devines. Because he didn't tell you, and I guess perhaps he has a problem tooting his own horn. But there was a Secretary of Infrastructure called Hilton Working Sandy, and many of you may say that he was the best Secretary of Infrastructure to pass through Tobago. And then, of course, we had at one point in time Gary Melville, who was also a very good Secretary of Infrastructure. But I am tempted to believe that Kwesi Devines is right up there among the best of the Secretaries of Infrastructure we've had. Because we have seen secretaries in this Tobago House of Assembly now boasting about building one road that cost $100,000 when it should have been around $50,000. Some people refer to it as Dubai and Paris and all kinds of things. And the question in my mind is, where were those persons when the PNM was there building all the roads, all the bridges, all the retaining walls, all the drains, all the important infrastructure that we have now? And I remember when Mr. Devines was there, We cut ribbon after ribbon, opening up new roads, opening up refurbished, repaved roads. I remember we repaved the entire highway. We made it safer as well by putting in the reflective lights. We commissioned a number of bridges. We built retaining walls in this Tobago like never before seen in the history of Tobago. And that was performance. And I sit here disappointed to say that as an island over the last 4 years, we've gone backwards. Not just in terms of infrastructure, but tourism, agriculture, education, creativity, culture, housing, every sector, we've gone backwards in this Tobago House of Assembly and on this island. But I want to say to us that we must always pay attention to the facts, especially this time around. You see, during this period, a lot of misinformation, a lot of deliberate lies will come your way. And I want to respond to one, because the Chief Secretary recently found himself under a lot of pressure, found himself hot and bothered by the potent delivery of the minority leader and the minority councillor when they brought the last motion to the House. And in his response, he told you, the people of Tobago, that under the PNM, it was 21 years of abuse. And I want to ask you this evening, what abuse is Farley talking about? Because the PNM was not perfect, but in every community, you can sit in that community, or you can take a casual walk through that community and identify several examples of PNM love for the people of Tobago and for the people in every community across Tobago. You see, the PNM was not abusive when Farley himself required funding to go to university in Jamaica, I think it was, and got it on time, every time, until he was able to complete his studies. The PNM was not abusive when Faith Be Israel was able to go from bachelor's to master's to even a doctorate under the same PNM administration. The PNM was not abusive when Farley Augustine, Zorisha Hackett, and others, as teachers, were able to publicly campaign against the PNM and express their political views freely, to the extent that even when Farley won his seat in the assembly for the first time, he wanted to continue teaching. The PNM was not abusive at all. Because you, the people of Tobago, having experienced 21 years of what I consider to be PNM love. And let me say, PNM love is not PNM perfection, because we were not perfect. We made some mistakes along the way. And upon reflection, there are some things that we could have done better. I can sit here and admit that. But I'm saying, standing any mistakes that were made, we put the interests of the people of Tobago first, single occasion. So you see, when we developed a policy from 2001 that the contractors from outside of Tobago that did all the development in Tobago must and should be replaced by contractors homegrown and developed right here in Tobago. That was love. That was not abuse. But when we came in, we're having some mic issues? Battery? No? Okay. But when Farley came in 2021 and decided to sideline and blacklist all those contractors to the extent that many of them can no longer continue in business, that was abuse. That wasn't love. When for 21 years we ensure that we prioritize the little funding that we had to ensure that every single young person whose parents could not afford their university fees, especially incidentals like housing and food and so on, because of course, Gate mostly covered the tuition, but Tobagonians had 2 bites of the cherry in that they were able to get additional funding from the Tobago House of Assembly to cover other aspects of their studies. When we in the PNM for 21 long years ensure that we found those resources and provided them to Tobagonians on time, every time, to the extent where once upon a time I met a lady who worked CPEP, and she was boasting at the fact that notwithstanding that she is a CPEP worker, her daughter is a doctor in the Scarborough General Hospital today. And that is because the PNM made that, the funding of those students, a priority. That was love, not abuse. But when recently, just about a few months ago, I heard about university students on the doorsteps of the universities about to be thrown out because the universities were waiting on funds from the Tobago House of Assembly to cover certain aspects that were not forthcoming from the Tobago House of Assembly. Of course, I got involved and picked up the matter publicly. The Secretary of Education wrote me a lawyer letter. My lawyer responded, and I guess it's safe to say case dismissed. I haven't heard from her lawyer since. But when those students came to me crying and complaining that, look, the THA has not paid, we're calling the secretary, we're calling the chief secretary, nobody is answering, we're under pressure. These universities want their money. We don't know what to do, we don't know where to go. That was abuse, not love. And therefore it is important to understand the difference, especially at this time, between abuse and love. And in closing, because the time is going off, I want to say to the people of Tobago that it is quite okay to take back your ex. Because in relationships, sometimes the grass appears greener on the other side. And after a long relationship with the People's National Movement, I know you genuinely felt and believed that the grass was greener on that side. Because of course they had a good story. They whispered sweet nothings in your ears. They promised you the moon, the stars, the sun, and the entire galaxy. They sold you a good story. Let me fix this, let me fix this, let me fix this. And you bought into that. And you decided to get out of the relationship with the PNM and enter into a new relationship with these people. And over the last 4 years, which is their first 4 years, they have not treated you anywhere as near as good as the PNM treated you. That's a fact. But they will say to you that because your last relationship was 21 years, that despite how I may treat you, despite how much I might black your eye and cough you in your face and break your foot and bust your head, stay with me for 21 years just because you stayed with the last party for 21 years. And I'm saying to you, the people of Tobago, 21 years is not an entitlement to any political party. After every 4 years, you have to go back to the people and you have to make the case as to why the relationship should continue. And having given us 4 bad years, 4 years of abuse, 4 years of mismanagement, 4 years of chaos and scandal, 4 years of fakery, people pretending to be who they were not, people coming to you all pious and all humble and all holy, yet at the first opportunity, they were prepared to accept kickbacks from Trinidad contractors and sell you out, crushing your economy in the process. They were prepared to sit in closed rooms, plotting to use your scarce resources to pay propagandists to be all over social media consistently, shaping the narrative. And of course, they are still shaping the narrative, trying to convince you that because the PNM got 21 years, they are also entitled to 21 years. And I'm saying to you, having recognized that this 4 poor years have been considerably worse. In fact, it is the worst 4 years in the history of governance of Tobago. Then it is quite okay. In fact, it is quite necessary before you are killed to pack up your Georgia bundles, pack up your bags, leave that abusive relationship and return to your ex who treated you far better. Back then, the ex wasn't perfect. But the ex had 4 years to reflect. The ex had 4 years to reconsider our ways and to change our approach and to learn some things that we did not know about you, the people of Tobago, before. And having done the introspection, I'm saying to you that you can be rest assured that you do not have to tolerate the current abusive relationship. And I know sometimes when you're about to leave a man or a woman, they come and they try to beg and they promise and they plead. I ain't gonna do it again. I gotta give you more shopping money. I gotta talk to you more often. They come and they make all sorts of promises. And I'm saying expect those promises to be made over the next few months. They will come and give out houses that are not yet built. They will come and give you, especially the guys on the block, $1,000 just for a vote. They will come and promise you more 10-on, 10-off jobs. They will come and promise you every possible thing that they can promise. But if you don't hear anything else, hear this. of course, take what they're promising. But remember how they treated you over the last 4 years. Remember that. And therefore, once you remember that, and you compare that to how you were treated under the PNM, how every community, including this one, developed consistently, how the tourism sector was better, how the economy was better, how you had money in your pockets, especially the young men in the communities. One of them asked me, and forgive me, but I like to tell these stories sometimes. I was in Bethel recently, up by Big Dog and them. And one of the guys said to me, he said, when the PNM was in office, I could have gotten up any morning and found about 5 projects taking place in my community or neighboring communities to go on and get a job. At least 5 projects done by private contractors on behalf of the THA. He said, and if I feel to go on the work one day, make a 500 or 300 or how much ever they're paying for the day, and I get up next day and I do feel to go back, the day after that, I could have gone on another job and get another work. And then he said to me, since these people got into power, I have not had one opportunity to go to any project being done by the THA and get a day work. Not one. And I considered that, and I wondered if he was in fact speaking the truth. And in my consideration, it dawned on me that at that time that I was speaking to that guy, the only major project that was done in the western part of Tobago was done by a contractor from Trinidad. And I remember driving very often past that project, seeing the workers on the project, and none of them looked like Tobagonians. And my information is that there was not one Tobagonian on that job site. Ladies and gentlemen, if that does not tell you that we need to put Tobago first again, then I don't know what else will send that powerful signal to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dennis. You know, the political leader said that the grass was greener on the other side. And truth and in fact, it may have been green on the other side because it is artificial turf. And so artificial turf would usually look nicer and brighter and from a distance. But when you get close to it, you recognize it is not real. And we are here in Mason Hall, Moriah, to hear from the community of Mason Hall, Moriah, to hear what the artificial turf has given to you in Mason Hall, Moriah. Because interestingly, 4 years ago, maybe not to the day, but 4 years ago around there, we had an election. And the current assemblyman promised the world to Mason Hall, Moriah. Promised the world. And we were political competitors, him and I. He promised the world. And I drive around Mason Hall, Moriah today, and I have not seen one thing that the artificial turf has delivered. So all we got, and they are struggling now, they're rushing now to do a project down by the high school to make it seem as if something has been done in this district. And so we hear you. We've heard the cries. The prospective candidate has been on the ground, and he's heard the concerns from this community about things not being done, about promises that were made and far from delivered. And it's your turn now. It's your turn to come to the microphone, to have a conversation with the political leader and the prospective candidate, to ask your questions, to share how you feel, and to say to the People's National Movement, we want to give you another opportunity. And as the political leader rightly said, 21 years is not guaranteed to any political party. You come to the people and ask them for a term in office. And if you ain't do what you say you was going to do, pack up your bag and leave. Mason Mariah, the turn is yours. The mic is there. And we're asking you to come quickly to the microphone and ask your questions. If you are desirous of sharing your name, you can do so. If you don't want to share your name, that is not a problem.
Good night. Good night to all gathered. Good night, everyone. I'm not afraid to share my name because the PNM provided an island that we should be free to express ourselves. So, my name is Kevin Phillips, and I am from the most dynamic village and community, Mason Hall. I must note that our political leader, Mr. Dennis, he was in a bit of conflict when he was reminiscing about his time in Mason Hall, because he would have said that he believes otherwise, but the fond memories that you had, I saw you had some conflict, that in deep down inside, you know that it is the most dynamic place that you've ever been. So, but I know you lead a team, so you had to give a diplomatic response. It is so interesting that we could stand here tonight, this evening, 48 months after an election where there was a promise to fix things. And really and truly, Mr. Dennis spoke about the artificial turf. And what we got was AI, aggression and intimidation. And it is so good that we could see people here free to express themselves, because all that we have experienced, I for one know about the intimidation, the prejudice, the discrimination, the fear that has not only impacted on the livelihood of people, it has broken families, it has it is a very personal thing for me to speak about the fact that you have an area representative that could tell you, don't call the phone. And your constitutional right, your freedom of association, that you're victimized 24 hours every day for 48 months because you believe in a political ideology. That is not the Tobago that we know. There wasn't any fixing. They instilled fear and hurt and pain and division. I'm trying not to. It has been bad. It has been extremely bad that people are afraid to even say PNM. Because the agenda, it seemed to be, it was to annihilate people because of a political choice that they made. I am praying. I'm praying. I've been praying a lot. But sometimes God allows us to go through some circumstances to get closer to Him. I am praying that the people of Tobago, that the electorate, that they would make a decision in the best interest of their island, not only thinking about what is present, but the future. And if we can continue along this way. I have known Mr. Devines Kwesi. We would have won khaki pants, short, right down there, and long in tongue. And tonight, I know time is of essence. I'm seeing Mr. Dennis watching Mr. Dennis said that Kwesi doesn't blow his own horn. And it is very interesting to note that on the 6th of November mark 8 years since the Studley Park Enterprise Limited was officially launching the space at Tobago. And Kwesi is sitting there as if, oh really? And that happened when he was the Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Environment. And we must also note that the organizational structure that was implemented would have yielded the highest levels of productivity in that quarry. That up to this point, they cannot match, which has now become the so-called crown jewel and forex, the messiah of forex for the current administration. They met an organization and they met a corporate structure and a facility that would yield productivity. They met that, and that happened under Kwesi Devines. And Kwesi, I ask of you tonight, I'm not asking for a friend, I'm asking for myself and the people in Mason Hall, that when the people of Tobago, particularly people of Mason Hall, Mariah, make a wise and conscious and loving decision to make you the representative for this beautiful, filled with potential electoral district, that the same energy that you had with regards to instilling innovation, productivity, and making opportunities available, that you will do that once more and make this electoral district an essential community in Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
My very short question after that whole preamble is, Kwesi, seeing that we are in a circumstance where we have been impaired, we have been decapitated of potential, because we were promised that things will be fixed and they failed to do so, and instead they have people shaking in their boots. People cannot even tell them where they are going wrong. And you are on the ground with the political leader and you all are listening. Like a good ex, you are listening to find out how I could get back in the house. What are, and I hope that you'll be able to answer subsequently at some point, what are 4 main areas that you believe, long-term and short-term, that can be done to reinstill that type of productivity and innovation that Mason Hall was once known for? So with that question, I'm hoping that you'll be able to answer. I say thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr.
And have
Phillips.
a good evening.
Well, leave it to Mr. Phillips, my good friend, to give us an essay.
Yeah.
And then ask questions for me to answer with an essay as well. But just to sum up, and yes, the reality is I'm not one to toot my own horn. That's the reality. And even looking now at, and just to speak very quickly about the Studley Park quarry, the reality is a lot of hard work went into it. Mm-hmm. The reality is we were able to transform that organization into a profit-making machine. The reality is there were mountains and mountains of aggregates on the ground. The reality is we were able to export to St. Vincent and Guyana before. The reality is we were able to increase productivity. The reality is we did all of it on a smaller staff than was there before. The reality is we rehabilitated the Barbados Bay jetty to facilitate export. And we did all of that. But again, and I guess it's because of again, having experienced the reality that all of those things don't matter when it comes to the people on the ground. Because I can tell you that when I walk on the ground in Mason Hall and Mariah, as much as people feel good to know that there's an export license, as much as people want to know that there's development happening around, they also want to know that they can get genuine help. And gone are the days, in my humble opinion, where the people give up their power, because you are seeing time and time again, as we said, the current representative, walk up and down and promise the sun, the moon, the stars. And then once they are elected, they do absolutely nothing. And then with 6 months ago, they want to lend a hand. And the reality is, we cannot continue to give up our power and wait until 4 years to have it again. The time has come that we recognize that the people are the employers, and so the people have the power. The people are the one that employed each and every politician that's holding an office today. And so, quite simply, my plan in the first 100 days, once elected, when elected for that matter, because we will claim it in Jesus' name, is that I will again walk the length and breadth of Mason Hall and Mariah. And I will ensure that the power is in the hands of the people. Because it cannot be that you're paving somebody's yard because that is your activist in the corner. It can't be that people who don't really need financial assistance are getting it. It can't be that because I'm working in your office, I'm getting my roof fixed. The reality is the community is the one to decide that. The people of Mason Hall and Mariah are the ones to decide that. And my job in the first 100 days will be to walk the length and breadth, because Mason Hall can possibly be 3 villages on its own. Mm-hmm. Mason Hall is probably the largest village in Tobago and is still growing as we speak. And so we have to get people together and not just have village councils that represent personal interests anymore, but have village councils that represent the entire of the community. And when the village council, and when we get the village councils together with everyone, and I'm going to ensure that we have some of the brightest minds, accountants, sociologists, engineers, project managers, and the community works with that committee that I have brought to you. And we say, these are our 10 priorities. Get it done. Then my job is to get it done. My job is to bang on the table around the executive council. My job is to work tirelessly to get those projects done. Not what I want to see. And mind you, I have my vision. This community center, look at how full it is already. Mason Hall is the biggest village and has probably the smallest community center. It's time we have a regional complex in Mason Hall. It's time we have a pan theater to bring back them boys and pan fanatics again. It's time we recognize that as much as the blue food is in Lands for Me, and I love Lands for Me and blue food, that the best dasheen comes from Mason Hall. It's time we realize that the young men on the block don't have to wait and ask, boss, where you buying for we to drink today? As a matter of fact, the young men have the power that if we decide as the assembly that we are going to enter into a homestead program, that we identify people with 1 acre lands that are currently idle, that we can identify and train young men. We could do container homes for them, and they can grow to live and live to grow. So they don't have to pay rent with money, We say, you know what, dasheen is the cash crop. And when Mr. Dennis gets the project back in Goldsboro, the agro-processing plant going again, we can export dasheen like that out of Mason Hall and any other crop that we decide to ensure that the young men don't have to wait for a 10 on, 10 off to feed their families anymore. It's time that the power goes back to the people. And I just want to say this. The slogan is no accident. And that is why we have to put Tobago first again.
Thank you, Mr. Devines. The mic is open. And I want to give the audience a round of applause, man. The center is not big enough. There isn't enough chairs. Yeah, we did well.
Seemingly people don't want to ask questions tonight, but I will. Good night, my name is Renison Koshi, Chairman of Party Group 15. You articulated very clearly, Mr. Devines, that Mason Hall is the cultural capital of Tobago. what are really your plans to ensure that it remains that way? I'm a cultural person, you know that. I'm a teacher by profession. But I want to ask you, to make this little place the cultural capital of the island, to produce the Little Sevens, we have Lyndon Rowley, Pan Fanatics, them boys, we have the Patsy and them with the dancing story. My question to you is, what have you tabled, what will you table to ensure that we live that dream?
Thank you so much for that question. And I see you all intend to make this seat a hot seat, but that's all right. The reality is, and I'm happy you said it, and I believe both Mason Hall and Mariah are, and as I said it before, I make no apology about it for those who missed it. And I will say it again, there are more of my fellow candidates here. I make no apology when I say it. The cultural and natural heritage of Mason Hall and Mariah are unrivaled as far as I'm concerned. And so, when we look at the fact that Mason Hall has produced so many musical geniuses, so many bands, the Little Sevens, so many pan sides, and we no longer world champions, them boys. And we don't have a home for pan in Mason Hall, in the largest village. The THA would have built pan theaters in other communities, and again, the advocacy is there because I know that them boys has the land already. I know that Pan Fanatics still has some steel pans. And so we are looking forward right down here to have the Mason Hall Pan Theater. And I guess I will leave it up to the Renaissance Quashies and the Balfours to decide if we're going to call it them Fanatics or Fanatic Boys. I don't know. But beyond that, there are two things that we can't take for granted, and I see some teachers here among us, that education in the schools is important. And we're not talking about formal education only. We need to ensure that the Pan in the Schools program at both the primary and secondary school is alive and well. Because the time for importing Pan players from Trinidad has to stop. We have to start filtering up Pan players from the primary school and the secondary school. Mason Hall Secondary is probably the biggest secondary, one of the biggest secondary schools on the island, filled with potential talent. Mason Hall Primary School, where I went, again, filled with immense talent. We have Mariah Devines Road, and of course, we still have the North Regional SDA Primary School. And so we need to ensure that our education is well-rounded, the package of education is well-rounded in the primary schools. Introducing technology in the classrooms in a real and meaningful way. Introducing music and so on in a real and meaningful way. One of the things that I learned is that back in the day, Broad Road in Mariah, on a Sunday was the hub for carnival. Everyone went to Broad Road for carnival. And there's no reason that as we develop, and you see some people try to claim it, but of course Mr. Dennis will speak to it, that it is the P&M that laid the groundwork for the Tobago Carnival that we have today. Yes. And the fact is, the growth of the carnival is being stymied and stifled. And it is being stunted by the people in government. Let's ask them, because they had to replace the Culture and Tourism Secretary just a couple of weeks before, because she had no clue how to manage the carnival. And the fact is, a North Side Carnival, and we're not talking about the carnival just with bikini and feathers. We're talking about bringing back our traditional characters, the Midnight Rubbers, the Peregrinades. I saw recently by Sharon Phillips where they reimagined all of these characters, and young people were making the costumes. Let's make Mason Hall and Mariah a true cultural hub. Let's bring back a Northside Carnival. We have a lot of cultural talent. Steel Pan, Soca, Calypso, Prince Unique is there. You name it. Let us do it. Let us have a Mason Hall, Mariah, Northside Carnival staple weekend added on to the Tobago Carnival weekend. And we will see what we can do in this community. And of course, if no one comes to the mic, I haven't even mentioned as yet the potential cultural and tourism potential for the old-time wedding. Recently, the old-time wedding was featured in the USA. Some people left Moriah and went to the US because the old-time wedding is in high demand. And people want to come and see how we dance. When I visited Brazil, you could go and put on a costume. You could go and walk on the Samba Drum to see what it's like. And it's time that people can come to Mason and Moriah. And we use it as a tourism product. Because again, in Moriah, people don't even know that there are many beaches. On top of the culture in Mason and Moriah, there are many beaches, there are waterfalls. And that's why I said we have it unrivaled. Because Buku might say they have beach and they have reef, but they have no waterfall. you realize? And the reality is we have rivers and waterfalls in abundance. And the rivers is not just to have effect every now and again, but there's genuine tourism potential at those venues right now. And so there's a lot of history. There's a lot for us to market to the rest of the world. And we have an untapped potential in terms of tourism and cultural tourism in particular in Mason and Moriah. And it's time we start bringing in the foreign exchange, not in Sully Park, Korea alone, but right here, right on the ground in Mason and Moriah.
Spoken like a man with true passion for his electoral district. I want to encourage us. Let's come to the mic.
Good evening, everybody. Name Selwyn Archer. I'm from Tobago. Mr. Levins, I agree with you. There are some secretaries or secretary who is settlement claiming that they give people land, if they got daughter, and so on. Another thing again, there are some people who went for election against the PNM. Some went once, some went twice, some went 3 times. Some live in Plymouth, some live in Canaan, some live in Paychanil, and so on. And they're still working. So PNM, not a spiteful thing. The only thing that PNM don't do is to show off. And now let us start to show off. Mr. Devines, there's a question for you. As a man with experience or qualified where tourism is concerned, and as a gentleman who passed through, all of us passed through the same place, Oaks Division. I want to put the question good, but take it as a question, even if you come over as a question. How you feel here in the building a hotel in Carrera, and they throw away sandals in Tobago? I'm asking you again, how do you feel as a gentleman who qualified where tourism is concerned? They're building a hotel in Carrera. You know where Carrera is? Now Carrera in a place where you could take people from Venezuela easy and bring them in Carrera without customs, anybody else know. And we have a gentleman in Tobago say anything the Prime Minister say or do, he agree with that. So let us qualify, before you answer, let us qualify this man as a puppet of the Prime Minister. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Archer.
I thank you for that question, Mr. Archer. And a lot of people don't know, but my undergraduate and postgraduate studies actually was in tourism management. But first and foremost, as a Tobagonian, and as Tobagonians, we need to wake up and smell the coffee. Because I can tell you, it is extremely clear now, because we used to always hear it, that if it were not for Dr. Keith Rowley and the PNM government, we would not have a brand new international airport terminal.
Sure.
And I was working actually in St. Vincent on a tourism development project in 2009 when the Prime Minister at the time, Ralph Gonsalves, was trying to build the Argyle International Airport and was cap in hand trying to get assistance for it with no hotel developments on the horizon. Now St. Vincent has not only Sandals, but 4 other hotels are ready to break ground in St. Vincent as we speak. My good friends in St. Vincent, as I said, I work there, are laughing at me when I say, well, Chris, I can fly to New York anytime, non-stop, direct from St. Vincent, unheard of before. Whether it's JetBlue or American Airlines, they have their choice. But Tobagonians, we get carried away with a hairy crab talk. And the same man who he tail drop, he was a bad dog before. He tail drop because he begged for a walk and he want a walk bad, bad, bad. Call names, I might whistle. Call names, I will whistle. But he was the one that said to take Sanders and put it on Carrera. You all remember that?
Yep.
Denying Tobagonians of jobs in the construction sector, there would have been 2,000 to 3,000 jobs. The same jobs that they're boasting about in Trinidad would have been afforded to Tobagonians. I know people that were clearing land for agriculture right here in Tobago. Yep. I know someone who was preparing a toilet paper factory right here in Tobago. Because in the hotel business, you don't want to do what is called double handling. And so Sanders does not want to import all its food items from out of the country. Whatever they can get locally, they will take locally. They consume over 2,000 eggs every single day. Imagine what our chicken farmers would have experienced. Thousands of tons of tomatoes every year. Melon, Christophine, you name it. Imagine what our agricultural sector would have been like. We would not have been worried about the Dragon Gas deal if we were serious about tourism and Sandals and other resorts in Tobago. What I can tell you is that Tobago possibly needs at least 3 proper, and I'm not saying to destroy the environment by any means. Adhere to the environmental regulations. But what we need in Tobago is the true gem. Tobago was fought over, and our forefathers would tell you, was fought over the most for a reason. We are the true gem of the Caribbean. And what you're seeing here is a total abandonment of the people of Tobago, because they are saying that development in Tobago is not a priority. Because where else should you put a hotel than in Tobago? Where else should you bring tourists than to experience the Buku Reef, the Nylon Pool, Pigeon Point, the Argyle Waterfall, Highlands Waterfall? Where else but Tobago? The priority for development in the 1980s, it was Tobago's tourism industry that pulled us out when there was a drop in the oil price. And the reality is, if we invest in the tourism sector in Tobago, we will bail out Trinidad and Tobago yet again. But clearly this government does not care. And you heard it from Mr. Archer. Our chief secretary is nothing more than a puppet. He agrees to the war. He agrees to sending home URP. He agrees to sending home CPEP. He agrees that we don't need the autonomy bill. And he also agrees that Tobago does not need any of those resort development. He's nothing more than a puppet and a placeholder for the UNC. It's time to put Tobago first again.
You all have Mr. Devine's real passionate tonight. Man on fire. Keep the questions coming, man. I see a gentleman scratching. Are you ready to go? Yeah, the mic is right next to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Go, use the mic. No, use the mic. Use the mic for the stream. For the live stream.
Yeah. My mic will be live, so I don't want it to go live. Hi, everybody. These are questions really for Mr. Dennis, who will be the future Chief Secretary on the island.
Yeah.
In a few months. And this question is really on behalf, they don't know yet, but on behalf of the representatives. The question was asked by Mr. Kwashi to Mr. Devines. Mr. Devines outlined some programs and projects he wants to implement. How do you intend to ensure that the representatives get what they want Because many times, and I'm talking from experience, many times you will want something, but it mightn't line up with, it wouldn't line up. Because what may be important to some, to me as the area representative, you see the low-hanging fruit that drain down the road that needs fixing? That could ensure that I could come back here another 4 years. That weighs more on my conscience than the big ribbon cutting ceremonies that we have for cover all Tobago. Don't get me wrong, we're not trying to diminish those kind of projects and programs. But remember, for us to get back in power, you have to ensure that the people who you're serving feel that you're doing something for them. You understand? So, I don't know if you've thought about it, but if you haven't, please ensure that the representatives have some kind of collateral that to say, well, all right, these are the 5 projects in my area, give me at least 3, and let me get them done. So, thank you.
Mr. Pitt is speaking from some experience. Now, it's always a very competitive process because I don't know about the TPP, but in the PNM, we had some very passionate assemblymen who always wanted to ensure that they do the best for their districts.
Before you continue, Mr. London. Rather way when I'm answering is when I reach home, I realize you want to answer my question. Make sure that you answer my question.
Of course. So, we had some very passionate area representatives who will always want what is best for their communities. And we spent the last 4 years in opposition, interacting with the communities, interacting with our members. And that has been one of the biggest cries from the people of Tobago that we heard in the PNM. That they felt that the real bread and butter issues, and that term sounds familiar, bread and butter issues, because it's what the PDP campaigned on, and we haven't seen the bread and butter issues being taken care of. But people really genuinely feel that the real issues that affect them, that we consider to be the simple issues in the communities, are not always addressed. And I want to give future representatives and the people of Tobago the assurance that having learned, because I want to reiterate that these 4 years were a learning experience, not just for me, but the People's National Movement. And therefore, the manner in which we operate in this dispensation is going to be quite different. So, the development agenda will even go beyond the area representatives. The planning will take place among the people within the various communities. And we're not... And of course, there has to be a balance. There are major projects that we want to do. I wouldn't let any out of the bag as yet, but there are major projects that we will be coming with. We call it a bold new vision for the development of Tobago. But we must also balance that by paying attention to the very little and simple issues that affects people in their daily life. The small drainage issues, the little potholes in the road to be fixed that Tanti have to drive her car on for the last few years, mashing up her shocks and so on. The garbage that is not being taken care of, the communal bin that is not being taken care of. And I'm talking about some of the things that Mr. Pitt himself experience, right? So we're going to ensure that not only do we pay attention to the major things, but we're also going to take care of the things that affects the people, those real issues in their communities. And we will be developing Tobago, and this is going to sound very familiar, community by community, in tandem with the people within the respective communities.
Good night, everyone. I come here tonight, and I mean everybody in Mason all know me. My name is Nigel Ramsey. I'm a public servant. My concern is contract work. And this is something that plagued Tobago. Because before I ask my question, before I say I want to say, I just want to paraphrase a little bit. I was a part of the National Liberation Movement. We walked the length and breadth of Tobago, and we talked to everybody in Tobago that we could have spoken to. As a result of that, I was called out. What am I doing? And that's the reason why I went and take up the project management position in Tobago for a contractor in Trinidad that finished the library in Scarborough. Taliman was the site superintendent, and we finished that library. And I was a daily paid worker, and I applied for work supervisor. There were 10 vacant out of the 17 positions in Trinidad, in Tobago. And I get appointed in Trinidad because the THA at the point in time did not apply for the positions because they were putting contract officers in those positions, against those positions. Subsequent to when we was appointed in Trinidad, the Service Commission did not give approval for those positions that were going to come under the name of Clerk of Works. Why am I saying this? Our financial sector does not recognize people to build equity and wealth except they're deemed to be permanently employed. So you could, imagine you could go and get a loan to buy a car for 300,000, but your car get 100,000 to buy a piece of land. And we have seen where Tobago come to the point now where public servants are being appointed in senior positions in Tobago and being serving in the highest position, administrators, and I'm not knocking Trinidad because I am in Trinidad now as a senior public servant. My point is, I developed myself was to develop Tobago. That is the reason why I did it. The Tobago Technical School, and again to the point, I lectured there from 2009 to 2017. A number of the supervisors coming in now, I train them. I am in Trinidad 5 days a week, and the amount of people I am training and helping in Trinidad that I am not doing in Tobago is against my conscience. I helping people with master's thesis. People, I can show you right now a guy who wrote to me who I help, who write in a book that asks for my comment. I prefer to be in Tobago, and I just tell them that in Trinidad. My studies was to develop, Mason all have the most tradesmen in Tobago. And I am not saying that by guess. I come from a family of builders, the Ramsey brothers. Everybody knows. And I am in Trinidad doing all kind of things for Trinidad because I was denied the opportunity to work in Tobago to the benefit of Trinidad and not Tobago. That right now they're trying to convince me to stay in Trinidad, but I'm coming home. And I'm telling you why I'm coming home. We have a lot of vacancies in the public service in Tobago, work supervisors, Godwin Adams there, engineering assistants, that they can't fill positions for because we don't have, we had Trinswela, going back to Trinidad with the projects, we are MIT, not doing the construction projects because they can't find tutors and lecturers. So my question is, what are we going to do for education that have jobs? And I'm not talking about traditional. I'm talking about construction technology. I am talking about construction management. And one I'm going to be writing just now to treat with is surveyors in Tobago. I am the only Tobagonian that has been a past president at the Institute of Surveyors of Trinidad and Tobago. I am a quantity surveyor and a building surveyor. When we came under property tax in the library was because I am on the executive at the ISTT, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm still on the executive today. And the issue with land and providing opportunities for students to choose surveying as their first choice, that is something that I want to bring and give Tobago the opportunity to participate in that. So that is my thing in terms of education that are meaningful, that I have jobs for, is surveying disciplines and getting the public service in Tobago, staff with public servants in these roles that are not traditional, that could move to the highest echelons. What we're going to do for the construction industry in terms of training people to do estimates, to manage projects and help the contractors. Just like you're talking about, we want Tobago contractors. With the procurement legislation, they have to be able to function in a particular way. That is my point.
Before Mr. Dennis gets in on it, to speak to the broad vision, I just want to speak to a couple of things. One, when previously we actually had a partnership with the Division of Education, the Division of Infrastructure, MIC as well, where we were training people from URP and in the division to be certified with NEC, whether it's in masonry, carpentry, and so on, and again, those skilled. Because there are some people who are skilled, but they are not certified tradesmen. And so we actually did start a program of that nature. We also took it further to start doing training in China in conjunction with the Chinese, where we sent some engineers to China 1, and then some were being trained on the sites that some of the Chinese contractors are doing in Trinidad. So your point is very well taken. But I just want to tap into something there. Because when I worked on the committee for the autonomy bill, one of the key concerns was the service commissions and how slow they operated in the Tobago context. Mm-hmm. We have Mrs. Ayana Webster-Roy here, and she could tell you as well. And it's not just the Public Service Commission, but also the Teaching Service Commission as well. And so one of the things that we were petitioning for in the autonomy bill were dedicated commissioners to deal with the Tobago issues, because a lot of those vacancies were not being filled in a timely manner at all. It took years. Only recently they got back a TO in the Division of Infrastructure after years of vacancy. Part of it, of course, is that the pay package is no longer attractive, but the reality is the service commissions are not doing their work expeditiously enough in Tobago, and we need to do that. And I'm really happy to hear that you're willing to come back to Tobago, so I'm waiting to have a conversation with you after, because I know I see Mr. Isaac in the back there, as well, because I know it's now called geomatics at the University of the West Indies. I have some friends who moved from surveying to geomatics, and I'm looking forward to hearing more licensed surveyors in Tobago. And of course, there's a process for that. And we need to get to the place where there are more licensed surveyors on the island of Tobago. I think currently there are 3 licensed surveyors, if I'm not mistaken, and I guess you all could correct me. But I would really love to see that situation improve. So I'm happy to hear that you're willing to come back to Tobago, because that type of education is important, something that we're taking for granted as well. Most of our vehicles, again, Mason Hall has a lot of garages. We like fast cars in Mason Hall in particular. But very soon, most of the engines are going to be electric or hybrid. And we don't have enough people trained to deal with those types of vehicles. And so I am going to petition and work towards ensuring that Mason Hall in particular becomes a hub for people trained, because I know Mr. Gray, I'm probably talking to you as well at school, I know someone who went to study in that particular field. But I would like to know that Mason Hall, as well as skilled tradesmen, we're looking at the place to come to fix your electric and your hybrid vehicle, because once the warranties are finished at Massey and wherever, where are you going to go to fix those vehicles? And Mason Hall has to be the place, and of course Mariah, by extension, has to be the place that people come to fix those vehicles.
Over the years, this issue about permanent employment and filling the vacancies has existed. And Kwesi is right in that the Public Service Commission and even the Teaching Service Commission tends to be extremely slow in filling these vacancies. And I remember as Chief Secretary, one of the first meetings that I had with the chairman of the Public Service Commission at the time to treat with some of these long-standing issues, the vacancies in the public service schedule that were not being filled for many years. And therefore, as an assembly, as an executive, when faced with that situation and the fact that you need people to do some of those jobs and some of those tasks, then that is where you actually have to rely on contract employment. So given that reality, there has been and there might always be a coexistence between permanent employees in the Tobago House of Assembly and the government by extension and contract employees. But I must mention the fact that it was the PNM in 2020, I think it was, because you mentioned the difficulty that contract employees experience with going to the bank with a one-year contract, trying to get a vehicle loan or a mortgage or whatever loan, a home improvement loan, a business loan, or whatever the case might be. And one of the key decisions that we made, taking into consideration that reality, was to standardize 3-year contracts in the Tobago House of Assembly. So as we speak now, no contract employee in the THA currently gets a 1-year or a 2-year contract, but it is standardized at 3 years. And even now as we develop our plan going forward, we are giving serious consideration to improving that. But I also have to talk about Tobago's autonomy and the autonomy bills, because there are some issues that we cannot fix in Tobago unless we have the legislative authority and the administrative authority to fix them. And that is why the PNM government, the last PNM government, after several years of consultations, after several years of work by a joint select committee, came to the parliament with 2 bills that would have changed the lives of the people of Tobago forever. And some of you might only be interested in the money, the 6.8% that would have guaranteed Tobago an additional $1.5 billion per year to develop Tobago, to fix the road, to build the schools, to build the University of Tobago, and so much more, to build the marinas, and to build all the other tourism sites and attractions that we need. But beyond the money, I tend to believe that the greatest thing that we missed from those bills, the greatest opportunity, was in fact the power that would have been given to our assemblymen to make laws for the good governance and order of this island of Tobago. Because with lawmaking powers, it allows us to fix and deal with some of those same long-standing issues that you just mentioned. And currently we have a team of 15 that are trying to get into the assembly, and we're hoping to win the election 15-0 so that all of us will get there. But when we go there, the most we can do, and I need you all to understand this, the most we can do where lawmaking is concerned is develop a bill, take that bill to the Assembly, as we did back in November of 2021. All of you are aware that the Marine Park has serious issues there in terms of safety, in terms of proper environmental management. We developed the bill. We went to the Assembly. We got the majority of assemblymen to support the bill. But that bill being passed did not make it into a law because the THA does not empower, the THA Act does not empower our assemblymen to make laws. So that bill then had to go to the cabinet. Then the cabinet had to decide if it was worth their while. And from the cabinet, it goes to the parliament. And then the national parliament has to pass that into a law for it to become Tobago law. So as we speak, your assemblymen in the THA now and your future assemblymen still cannot make laws to fix some of the problems and to improve your lives and your living circumstances in a meaningful way. And the biggest fear for me right now is that this issue is not going to be a priority of this current government. Because the Prime Minister signaled to us, suggesting to us that the only issue is money. That you don't need a bill to get more money. And while the bill offers you protection, because the bill will place a minimum of 6.8%, and therefore you would not even have gotten 5% on this occasion if the bill was passed. It would have been 6.8% and approximately $1.5 billion more. But more than the money, more important than the money, is the authority and the ability of your assemblymen elected by you to represent you, to put on their suits and to go into that August House and pass real laws for the island of Tobago.
So, we almost, as we take that question, we almost at the time to wrap up. Yeah, time flies when we're having fun. So, I think I'm going to allow maybe two more questions, political leader, right? 2 more questions, and then we wrap up.
Good night, everyone. My question would be more to Mr. Devines, but Mr. Ansel, I would like your opinion on it as well. Mr. Devines, you have been walking through the villages of Mason Hall and Mariah. The last time you ran, you would have implemented certain things in the village to help the youths as far as work was concerned in the agricultural field or the works division, it wouldn't matter. When other parties won, these branches that you created for the youth, they were shut down. Majority of the youths never got back another work. They resorted to the block or other stuff as far as that is concerned. When you do get the position as our leader from Mason Hall, Mariah, do you plan to bring this back into effect with the youth? Also, doing the walkabout, I would have expected you to notice that there are 5 schools in total in Mason Hall and 3 or 4 schools in Mariah. But Mason Hall in specific, that I could speak for, we have probably 3 pavements in total. With 5 schools, that's a lot of children walking the street. And most evenings, these children are walking in the middle of the road to reach from point A to point B. What do you think that you would be able to do to rectify the situation?
Thank you.
I thank you again for that question, Junice. And you're right. There were things that we had put in train because the idea was not to let the young people feel like they have to come to the assemblyman or the member of the assembly or the secretary to beg for anything. And that is what the 10 on, 10 off is doing. As much as it is giving people an extra $2,000 a month, but the idea really is to keep you coming back begging. Apparently I heard that they want to keep people straight on until elections come. And before I even get into the question, there is something that I need to address. Because I felt very strongly about the people in URP, and you all know that in particular. We rebranded Useful, Relevant, and Productive. We got the agriculture program going, the furniture workshop, the concrete workshop. We were training the women. We were empowering the people in the URP program. We spoke about moving people onto the permanent list. While I was there, we signed the permanent list for the first time and moved 600 workers into permanent positions. We moved people from the development program and put them into the permanent list as well. And the next step, and the agreement with the union was, the next step would be moving people from the URP into the permanent list next. Because after they had gone through all of that training, they knew the run-ins. They were good masons, carpenters, you name it. They could now go onto the permanent list as well. Now, that is all for naught. And as a matter of fact, Tobagonians need to be aware that there was a ruling by Justice Kangaloo in 2014 that said that the Tobago House of Assembly, notwithstanding the THA Act and all of its powers under the THA Act, is a policy taker from the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago. The cabinet in 2014, by the way, was the UNC cabinet, the People's Partnership Cabinet, that took the PNM THA, led by Orville London at the time, to court for the reforestation program and forced the THA to have to shut down the program. The ruling thus means that URP and CPEP was shut down in Trinidad. It has to be shut down in Tobago as well. So all of the old talk and mama guy that don't worry, it's our money and they find it, they couldn't even agree what the money is for the program. There is a ruling that was never struck down that said that the THA has to take this policy. And the policy has been set by Kamala Persad and her government, that URP and CPEP will be no more. You all vote with sense. And this is not fear-mongering or scare-mongering. And it's not that URPs should be disbanded and any of that. The fact is that people are working there as we speak. Yeah. The fact is that the program is useful, relevant, and productive. The fact is that through the self-help program when I was there, we helped many single parents to get a roof over their home, to senior citizens to get wheelchair ramps. You name it, we did all of those things all around Tobago, from Charlottesville to Crown Point. And now this program is in genuine danger. But they will pretend like it is not until the election is gone. And then you heard it before, so you'll hear it again. And then if it is, we vote wisely, you cook. And that is the reality. And so just to add that the plan to really empower young men in Masonol and Mariah is a real and genuine one. We have a lot of agricultural lands, fertile land in Masonol and Mariah that are laying idle. And I think once the THA becomes an intermediary, we can really start bringing people back to the land in a meaningful way. There was the YAPA program, which was again disbanded. We don't only need to use because the THA, and again, they say we did nothing but 21 years, but every piece of land that they are giving away now was acquired by the PNM in the last 21 years. French, all of the estates, you name it, the land bank is there because of PNM policy. And so we need to get people back to, we have to produce again, and I'm looking forward to letting the young men of Mason and Mariah produce again. As I said before, let them grow to live and live to grow.
Sober conversations. Before we take the final comment or question, the driver of PEG 8224, the rain is falling and your glass is down. PEG 8224.
In Calder Hall, where there was a new traffic plan, one way at a particular time. The reality is, and we were going to put the pavement in before I left office, putting a pavement and during the peak hours of traffic when the school is about to start, and of course at the end of school, we turned there into a one-way circuit, of course with the relevant signs, the help of the police and so on, so that there will be a new traffic plan and sidewalks for the people, the children who are going to school in Mason Hall in particular. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, everyone. My question is about, we have secretaries and assistant secretaries. And recently we see where Division of Tourism, there were the Secretary of Education appointed to act the role where it having assistant secretaries. So in the Tobago Act, it shows that the assistant secretaries have no power. So what I really wanted to know, if it is you become the chief secretary to rectify this problem, because when it is an assistant secretary is on vacation, whatever, the assistant to step up as the role and given the opportunity to sign off checks or do whatever is necessary, right? Because it don't make sense you have an assistant secretary and they have no power. And where I see now, they passing, they want in the house, they want a deputy presiding officer, where it is that they could deal with this matter, right? So I just want to hear your thing.
Well, very interesting question. Let me just say that, firstly, the problem that the current administration found themselves in is simply because there is a pack of jokers, and no matter how you reshuffle the pack, you will not get the desired result. Now, the THA Act is clear when it says it is a secretary that must have general direction and control of a division. And of course, the assistant secretaries can be appointed by the president on the advice of the chief secretary to assist the secretaries in discharging their responsibilities, right? So the law doesn't allow for an assistant secretary to take charge of a division, right? It must be a secretary. The other thing is that no secretary or assistant secretary signs checks, right? That's a no-no. I don't know if it's happening now, but no secretary or assistant secretary signs checks. That's the work of the public servants, right? So the secretary, as part of the executive council, is the policy maker for the division. Notwithstanding what you may hear now and see now with secretaries going down into divisions, accounting units, and telling the accounting staff who to pay and who not to pay, and cut a check for this one, and the salary later, and they want the salary now, and they're traveling tomorrow and they want the check. That is not supposed to happen. The secretary is the policy maker for the division. The assistant secretary assists the secretary in policy making. So in terms of empowering the assistant secretary, there's nothing wrong with having an arrangement in a division where an assistant secretary can, of course, give policy direction in conjunction with the secretary, of course, because you don't want confusion. So you don't want an assistant secretary taking decisions that the secretary who has general direction and control over the division is unaware of. But an assistant secretary can be empowered to take responsibility for a part of the division. So, for example, you have a division of tourism and culture. You can have the assistant secretary taking responsibility for one part of it, whether it be culture or tourism. However, according to the law, the secretary has general direction and control of a division. And let me just say as well that it is one secretary, not two. One secretary that must have general direction and control of a division. And because this is a teachable moment, I want to explain to you, the people of Tobago, how this situation that exists now, I think it still exists, where you have Hackett as Secretary of the Division of Education and also Secretary of the Function of Tourism. Because the Division of Tourism, Culture and Antiquities has three functions under it: tourism, culture, and antiquities. What the Chief Secretary did was to give Hackett responsibility for culture simply because Tasha carry on the carnival. No confidence in Tasha. In fact, in case you didn't know, I will let it out the bag now. The stakeholders were about to boycott the carnival. And we ran the risk of not having a carnival in Tobago in October, because the incumbent secretary spent the last 3 years disrespecting the stakeholders. Of course, she called you, the people of Tobago, what is the term she used? Unwashed and illiterate. So that's her attitude across the board. Disrespectful. She treated the stakeholders the same way. And they, of course, were having none of it for this carnival. So the decision was made so that Hackett could manage carnival without firing the Secretary of Tourism, Culture and Antiquities, who deserved to be fired a long time ago. What that did is that it created a lot of confusion in that division. So the administrator up to now is still not aware to which of the two is really in charge of the division, because there is no secretary of the entire division. You have a secretary for tourism and the rest, and a secretary for culture. Or is it a secretary for tourism and perhaps culture and the rest? Two secretaries, none having authority and general direction and control of the division. And that is a recipe for confusion. It's a recipe for disaster. And of course, I don't need to tell you that something like that will never happen under a PNM administration.
Very quickly, Mr. Jacob, very quickly. Yes. No, less than that.
Well, I'll just say that I was having a conversation with my
Hold up, just raise the mic a little bit. Right.
I was having a conversation with my grandson this morning. He's 5. He said, Grandpa, what is the difference between chalk and cheese? And I said, Whitey, chalk, Quasi, cheese. And I'm here to say, if there's one person in the whole of Tobago who deserves to be a representative, Quasi deserves. I have seen Quasi put his hand in his pocket and give needy people his last. And if that is not deserving of being our representative, nothing is. Whitey, bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jacob. I'm happy that I allowed you to give the closing.
Good night, people.
This is the final last. Final last. Right? The full stop. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Hislop, I'm from Claude Benjamin from Broad Road, Moriah.
Yes, sir.
I having a problem with some police officers in the station. Where I'm living, I'm a resident of Broad Road. One morning I got up, and when I look outside was bright. Whole place yellow. I step out in the yard, I saw the sergeant passing, asked a question, if you really know what that yellow line signifies. He said to me, no parking. I said, sir, it is more than that. You cannot breach a yellow line. There is no charges towards a yellow line. But in front of my entrance, where I'm living, as we speak, if you go right now, you're going to see a no parking sign. About 2 feet from the entrance. I saw the sergeant put it there last week, Saturday. Why? You can't tell me that the regulations in Tobago different. Right? Because you're charging me for breaching the yellow line. There is no charges. You have no vote. Right? The officer and I want something to be done because the 3 officers, first time since I live in there, I see police officers directing traffic to paint the road. That's what drew my attention. I went to the road secretary down in Miss Frank. And her words to me is the police, when she have meeting with the police is saying, and the police tell her, them young boys in Broad Road, they'll be blocking up the road. They don't even have a bicycle. What are they blocking up the road with? Right? And when I leave him, her words, yeah, P&M. Well, Miss Frank doing a lot of stupidness where road is concerned, road traffic is concerned in this Tobago. Because you go between Post Office Street and the financial complex. If you're swinging to go in the market, the police want to give you a ticket. And every day, those fellas working in Victor E. Bruce, going in that car park, they're crossing a double yellow line. On the main road, this secretary have speed hump on the main road in black, in yellow and black. You cannot cross a yellow line. The law saying that. There was one color in the law books.
was red. But you have a machine here, and you border it with a red border. When I had to go and work on that, the red border, and then they tell me, don't cross it. Don't cross the red line. So they move it out. They move it out. And it gone in the law books. You cannot cross a yellow line. I want to know if I have a fire station ever there.
Thank you.
Yellow line is national security apparatus. I do have a...
Thank you, sir.
Right there.
Thank you. So we want to give, at this time, we want to give the prospective candidate, Mr. Kwesi Devines, and the political leader, I think it's 10 minutes between the both of you all, to give your closing remarks at this time.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Hislop, and let me start again by the way I started before, by thanking each and every person for the support. It's been a long night, but I think you all have been a great audience. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. I think the fact that so many people turned out here as well is a strong indication that the people of Tobago, and specifically the people of Mason Hall and Mariah, the Mason Hallians and the people of Mariah, are ready to stand up against AI, as Kevin called it. AI, the aggression and the intimidation of the TPP, PDP, whatever they call themselves at any given day. But I indicated at the start that my greatest fear used to be failure. But I learned that an L is really a lesson, no longer a loss. And as the political leader has said, for 4 years, we have listened and we have learned. And I can say that I have listened and I have learned. And what I want to share right now is that my greatest and only fear is God. And I think it's in Proverbs, when Mr. Chapman has left, Proverbs 9, I think it is, or Proverbs 10, that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And for each of my candidates, and this is just for me personally, and Ayana and I speak about it all the time, that personally, one of the things that I have done as I listen is recognize that I can't lean on my own understanding. As intelligent as I thought I was, as educated, as hard as I thought I could work, I could not lean on my own understanding. And I have to lean on a higher power. And so my entire campaign, that you all can assure that I'm going to put God first. That's it. As a matter of fact, first and last in everything that we do. The second thing that I've learned, and I know that I have to correct, that politics is not really a place for bachelors. Politics is not a place for bachelors. And so I can assure the people of Mason and Mariah that if you elect me, or when you elect me in the election, that you will not be electing a bachelor.
Proper thing.
Take that as you may, and you will stay tuned, as they say. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. But on a serious note, I just want to thank everyone who has supported me in the past and continues to support me. And I won't keep us much longer again, but simply to say that I am here, as I've always been. I am ready, I am willing, and I am able to serve the people of Mason Hall and Mariah and continue the great work that was started before under the People's National Movement. It's time to put Tobago first again. It's time to get the PNM back into government.
So Dennis?
Ladies and gentlemen, after an announcement like that, I would not say much more than to thank you. You have been a wonderful audience, and I want to give you, the people of Mason Hall, Moriah, the assurance that as your candidate, who is going to be your next assemblyman, you have one of the most knowledgeable, one of the most hardworking, one of the brightest, one of the most intelligent, and one of the most humble human beings I've ever met. And therefore, if the option on the ballot is between Kwesi Devines of the PNM and Whitey and the others,
Even those who left.
then it is a no contest.
That's right.
And if you truly want good, effective representation, and if you truly want somebody in your assembly that could manage your affairs responsibly and that will put your interests first, above their personal interests, above the party's interests, and of course above the interests of people from outside of Tobago, then Kwesi Devines is the man. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you for being
Well, that's what I
a wonderful audience. To those who have viewed online, I encourage you to continue to support your candidates in your electoral district. Get out, get involved. Don't take this for granted. We are in a battle for our lives and the lives of our fellow Tobagonians. God bless you. Get home safe until we see again on Monday night.
So many youths in service now, that's an honor. Oh, Thomas, you are my friend, my sister, and my brother. But what we gonna do?